This is the last message. Not an email, not a text. A slab of wet clay. And it says the world is ending. The year is roughly 1190 BCE, and in the palace of a coastal kingdom called Ugarit, King Ammurapi watches a scribe carve a desperate plea for help. Outside, in the pre-dawn dark, the air is thick with the smell of pitch and burning towns. The enemy is already here. The message has to get out. It's a flare, shot into the darkness, begging for grain, begging for warships. But this message will never be sent. In minutes, the room it was written in will be on fire, and the tablet will be baked hard by the very catastrophe it was trying to prevent. This single, unsent letter is our black box recorder for the collapse of an entire civilization. So, what broke the world? Was it the ships in the harbor? Or was something deeper already rotten? The answer isn't just about the past. It's a warning, etched in clay, for us. Let's put ourselves in that room. It's not just a palace, it's a command center, and the system is blinking red. Ammurapi, the last king of Ugarit, is a man trapped by geography and history. His kingdom is a jewel, a trading hub connecting the great empires, the Hittites to the north, Egypt to the south, the Mycenaeans across the sea. For centuries, this network has meant wealth. But tonight, it's a web of dependencies, and every string is snapping. The scribe's hands are stained with ink, but tonight, they're trembling. He's not just writing words, he's trying to hold back the sea with a reed stylus. The horses in the courtyard are screaming. Animals know. They smell the smoke the men are trying to ignore. And on the table, a cast of characters defines the crisis: the panicked king, the frantic scribe, and nervous Cypriot traders who know the price of copper but are now calculating the price of survival. Just beyond the harbor wall, the final characters in this drama, a fleet of ships, prows dark against the water. We call them the Sea Peoples, a vague, almost mythical name for a very real and immediate threat. They are a coalition of the desperate and the predatory, and they are the trigger. The question that hangs in the smoky air is the one that drives our investigation today: do great ages end in a single, fiery night? Or do they bleed out slowly, over decades, until one final push sends them over the edge? To find out, we have to pull back from this single moment of terror and look at the autopsy of an entire world. Our investigation file opens 50 years earlier, around 1250 BCE. Imagine a world humming with energy. From the golden citadels of Mycenae in Greece to the grand temples of Thebes in Egypt, from the mountain fortress of Hattusa, the Hittite capital, to our coastal city of Ugarit, this is the Late Bronze Age International Club. It's a globalized world, running on trust, treaties, and two critical metals: copper and tin. Copper flows in huge oxide-shaped ingots from the island of Alatia, modern-day Cyprus. Tin, the rarer, more mysterious ingredient, crawls across thousands of miles from the distant mountains of the east. Mix them together, roughly 10 parts copper to 1 part tin, and you get bronze. Bronze isn't just a metal. It's the operating system of this entire age. It's the sword in the soldier's hand, the plow in the farmer's field, and the chisel in the sculptor's studio. But most importantly, it's the chariot. The chariot is the F-35 of its day, a terrifyingly complex, expensive, and high-maintenance weapon system. It requires a driver, an archer, 2 highly trained horses, specialized wheelwrights, endless supplies of fodder, and smooth roads. It's the technology of a confident, top-down aristocracy. And for a century, this system works beautifully. Treaties are signed, sealed with intricate cylinder seals, and carried by messengers who travel protected routes. Kings call each other brother. It feels stable. It feels permanent. But it's all a beautiful, brittle illusion. Because when your entire military and social structure is built on a supply chain thousands of miles long, it only takes one broken link to bring the whole thing crashing down. Let's look at the evidence. 2 shipwrecks, discovered centuries later, tell the story like a black box recorder. First, the Uluburun shipwreck, which went down around 1300 BCE off the coast of Turkey. This isn't just a ship, it's a floating palace. Found by a sponge diver in the 1980s, its cargo was a snapshot of a world at its peak. 10 tons of Cypriot copper. 1 ton of precious tin. Jewel-colored glass ingots from Canaan, the oldest ever found. Ebony from Nubia, down past Egypt. Amber from the Baltic, all the way in the north. Canaanite jars filled with fine resins. Aegean ceramics. Cypriot textiles. Weapons, jewelry, spices. This single ship carried goods from at least 11 different cultures. Think about the level of trust required to make this happen. A merchant in Ugarit consigns his goods to a Canaanite captain, who sails to Egypt, then to Greece, knowing that treaties will be honored, that currencies will be accepted, and that pirates will be kept at bay by the great powers. The Uluburun ship is the physical manifestation of a stable, interconnected world built on elite gift exchange and reliable trade. It's a world of confidence. Now, fast forward a century. We dive again, this time at Cape Gelidonia, not far from the Uluburun wreck. This ship went down around 1200 BCE, right on the cusp of the collapse. The difference is staggering. There are no luxury goods here. No amber from the Baltic, no ebony from Nubia. This is a floating scrapyard. The main cargo is broken metal, worn-out tools, fragments of weapons, chunks of bronze waiting to be melted down. Instead of a king's treasure, the hold contains the toolkit of an itinerant tinker, a traveling repairman. Crucibles for melting, hammers, stone anvils. This isn't a ship of creation, it's a ship of repair. It's a vessel for a world in triage. Where the Uluburun captain sailed between palaces, the Cape Geladonia tinker was likely sailing between struggling towns, patching up a world that was falling apart. The system of grand, state-sponsored trade is failing. New bronze isn't arriving. So, a new economy is rising from the bottom up, an economy of salvage and recycling. This one ship tells us more than 100 palace inventories. It shows a world losing its slack, a system running on fumes. The shift from the Uluburun's treasure to the Geladonia scrap is the single greatest indicator that the network was already failing, long before the first enemy ship appeared off the coast of Ugarit. So the economy is fracturing. What about the armies? The chariot, that gleaming symbol of Bronze Age power, has a fatal flaw. It's a prestige weapon, designed for flat, open plains where aristocrats can duel each other. But what happens when the fight gets dirty? What happens when the enemy doesn't play by the rules? Sometime around 1200 BCE, a new piece of military hardware starts spreading like a virus, the Naui-2 sword. It's not as elegant as the long, pointy rapiers of the Mycenaean lords, which were designed for thrusting from a chariot. The Naui-2 is different. It's a cut-and-thrust sword. It's tough, it's versatile, and it's brutally effective in the hands of a foot soldier. A man on the ground, in rough terrain, can use this sword to slash at the exposed legs of a chariot horse, or cut the reins, or pull the driver from his platform. Suddenly, the aristocrat's superweapon is a death trap. And it's not just the sword. We see the spread of javelins, of massed archery, of tough shield walls. This is the rise of cheap, adaptable infantry tactics. It's a military revolution from the bottom up. And the palaces, with their rigid, top-heavy military doctrine, can't adapt. We see their anxiety written in their own paperwork. At the Mycenaean palace of Pylos in Greece, the last batches of clay tablets before its destruction are frantic administrative lists. They mention watchers of the coast, contingents of men being sent to guard the beaches. They are trying to mobilize, but it's too little, too late. The system is too slow. From Ugarit, we have those desperate letters, like Ammurapi's, begging the Hittite Empire and Alashia for troops and ships that are already committed elsewhere, or that never arrive. They are all calling for help on a network that has already gone dead. But one power did see the storm coming. Egypt. Pharaoh Ramesses III, the last great warrior king of the New Kingdom, was a master strategist. He understood that the threat wasn't a conventional army he could meet on an open field. It was a mobile, seaborne coalition. So he didn't try to defend a long coastline. He did something brilliant. He weaponized Egypt's own geography. He let the enemy come to him. The reliefs at his mortuary temple at Medinet Habu tell the story like a storyboard for a blockbuster movie. As the Sea People's ships try to force their way into the mouths of the Nile, they find themselves sailing into a perfectly laid trap. Ramesses has pre-positioned archers in fortified positions along the banks. Egyptian ships, more nimble than the enemy's transports, block the escape route to the open sea. It's not a battle, it's a slaughter. Grapnels fly out, hooking into the enemy prows, and the ships are dragged toward the shore, into a hail of arrows. The Nile Delta becomes a kill zone. But look closer at those carvings. The enemy isn't just an army. Behind the warriors, the reliefs show ox carts, carrying women and children. These are not just raiders. They are entire peoples on the move. They are families, displaced and desperate, looking for a new home. This is a migration, braided with violence. Ramesses wins a stunning victory. He saves Egypt. But it's a Pyrrhic victory. He has stopped the invasion, but he can't stop the underlying cause. And that cause is something no army can defeat. Because at the same time the swords are clashing and the ships are burning, a silent, invisible enemy is attacking everyone, everywhere. The weather. For years, scientists have been analyzing ancient pollen, cave formations, and lakebed sediments. The data points to a devastating climate event that struck the eastern Mediterranean around 1200 BCE, a prolonged and severe drought that may have lasted for decades. Letters between the great kings suddenly stop talking about exchanging luxury gifts and start talking about hunger. A Hittite queen writes to the pharaoh, "I have no grain in my lands." Pleas for grain shipments become the dominant diplomatic traffic. Food shortages lead to famine. Famine leads to civil unrest and population movement. The very foundations of these palace economies, surplus agriculture, are crumbling away. It is this climate shock that likely pushes those families onto the ox carts Ramesses III fought at the Nile. They weren't just invaders, they were climate refugees. And the earth itself seems to be convulsing. There's evidence for a series of major earthquakes, what some scholars call an earthquake storm, that rocked cities across Greece, Anatolia, and the Levant during this period. Imagine you are a farmer in this world. The rains have failed for 3 years in a row. Your children are hungry. A letter arrives from the palace demanding the same high taxes as always, to pay for the king's chariots. Then the ground shakes, and your storage silo collapses. And on the horizon, you see the sails of strange ships. Do you stay loyal to a king who can no longer feed or protect you? Or do you join the raiders? This is the perfect storm. Not one single cause, but a catastrophic cascade failure. It works like this: prolonged drought weakens harvests. Famine pushes desperate people to migrate and raid. Raiding severs the long-distance trade routes. The loss of trade means no more tin. No tin means no new bronze for weapons and tools. Armies can't be equipped, and elites lose their military advantage to cheaper infantry tactics. Without the profits from trade, palaces can't pay their soldiers or bureaucrats. Weakened states can no longer protect their coastlines or grain convoys from more raiding. It's a death spiral. Coordination fails at the exact moment it is most needed. That clay tablet in Ugarit, the plea for help, never gets sent because the palace is already burning. It's the ultimate symbol of the system's collapse. The message about the crisis is consumed by the crisis itself. In the ash layers of these destroyed palaces, archaeologists find the skeletons of scribes, buried under the rubble of their own archives, lying next to the final, meticulous lists of chariot wheels and ration requests. The bureaucracy was functioning perfectly, right up until the moment the roof caved in. And even in Egypt, the victor, the bill comes due. A few decades after his great victory at Medinet Habu, Ramesses III's kingdom is fiscally shattered. The state can no longer afford to pay the elite craftsmen who build the royal tombs at Deir el-Medina. Their grain rations arrive late, then not at all. So these workers, the most respected artisans in the kingdom, do something unprecedented. They lay down their tools and walk off the job, chanting, "We are hungry." It is the first recorded labor strike in human history. The victory over the sea peoples saved Egypt's borders, but it broke its bank. The system survived, but it was hollowed out, a shadow of its former self. The collapse is total. A darkness falls across the eastern Mediterranean. Great cities are reduced to rubble, many never to be occupied again. Entire writing systems vanish. The linear B script of the Mycenaeans goes silent forever. Hittite cuneiform disappears. The unique alphabetic script of Ugarit is never used again. For centuries, the very memory of how to write is lost in many regions. Population levels plummet. The complex, international world of the Late Bronze Age is gone, replaced by a poorer, smaller, more isolated world. But this isn't just an ending. It's a reformatting. Over the next few centuries, out of the ashes, a new world boots up. Small, scrappy city-states replace the old empires. Iron, once a precious novelty, becomes the metal of choice. It's harder to work, but its ingredients are local and plentiful. You don't need a 1,000-mile supply chain to make an iron sword. Phoenician sailors, successors to the Canaanites, begin weaving new trade routes across the sea. And most importantly, writing is reborn in a new form, the simple, adaptable alphabet, which eventually slips out of the hands of elite scribes and into the mouths and markets of common people. The collapse cleared the board for a new operating system to be installed. So what is the final diagnosis? What killed the Bronze Age? It wasn't a single blow. It was the system itself. Ages don't die from a single assassin, they die from 1,000 interconnected vulnerabilities. This is the blueprint of collapse. First, brittle complexity. The palaces were perfectly optimized for a stable world, but they had no slack, no buffer for shocks. Their prestige relied on heavy overhead and supply chains they didn't control. Second, network interdependence. When one critical input, tin, disappeared, the failure cascaded through the entire system, breaking armies and silencing scribes. Third, disruptive innovation. Cheap, adaptable infantry weapons and tactics eroded the military monopoly of the chariot elites. Finally, cascading shocks. Climate change, migration, and warfare weren't separate problems. They were a feedback loop, each one making the others worse until the fabric of civilization tore apart. And this is not a museum problem. It is a mirror. Our own world is a miracle of brittle complexity and network interdependence. A single missing component, a semiconductor chip from one factory, can idle entire industries. Climate shocks, droughts, floods, heat waves, are no longer abstract future threats. They are driving migration and conflict right now. New technologies are cheapening lethality and scrambling the certainties of elite power, just as the Naui II sword did. And our leaders, like the scribes of Pylos, are busy writing confident forecasts in very flammable rooms. The story of the Bronze Age collapse matters because it teaches us a brutal lesson: resilience is more important than prestige. Buffers, diversification, and humane strategies for absorbing migrants aren't charity, they are essential for system survival. The question is never if the shocks will come, but whether we have built a world that can fail gracefully, instead of all at once. So here is the verdict, the lesson baked into that Ugaritic clay: power without slack is just tinder waiting for a spark. The night Ugarit burned matters because our own supply chains, our climate, and our political certainties are clay tablets in a warming room. We can still choose to write a different message, or we can harden in the fire. The legacy question is the one no archive can answer for you. If you stood with Ammurapi as the dawn threatened to turn your house into a kiln, with your network collapsing and your resources dwindling, which shipment would you save? Whom would you feed first? And what would you be willing to let burn to keep tomorrow alive? Let me know your choice in the comments. And for daily investigations into the moments that broke the world, and what they can teach us about surviving our own, make sure you subscribe to Archives of Humanity. Then, check out the video on the screen for another story of a system on the brink.